Hey John, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Hey John, I gotta do this. I don't know if anybody told you, but at the start of my podcast, we like to butter the bread of any guests who want to hang out with us. So we do this thing called the over the top intro. Can I talk good about you for a few seconds before we jump into these questions?
Yeah, please do.
My next guest comes from the land of 10,000 lakes and then moved out west to become an award-winning producer, director, the owner of Remind Insoles, and a pretty kick-ass snowboarder and skateboarder himself. You may know him from his work on Red Bull Game Breaker, Water to Wine, and what we're here to talk about today, Art and Life, the story of Jim Phillips, in theaters throughout North America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, beginning January 31st. Mr. John Makens, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. That was awesome.
You know what's the cool thing about you, John? You so chill that my level of energy was just kind of like, oh, we're doing that today. No, but let's have some fun, man. We talked about you a snowboarder, you're a skateboarder, you're a director, you're a producer, you are an artist. I am loosely described as an artist, whatever this is called. And we're about to talk about some art. So let's go ahead and get into it. When you wanted to tell the story of Jim Phillips, I know this was very near and dear to your heart because of your profession and because of what you do in your private life too. Why was it you? Why did you feel I'm the guy who's supposed to tell Jim Phillips' story?
Um, that's a good question.
Okay.
I mean, I was always just a huge fan of Jim's art as a kid, and I think from his influence was the reason I wanted to become an artist and a skater, and everything kind of led to that. And then when I finally got to meet Jim, um, we did some work together. He did some logos and some design work for the brand Remind Insoles that I was running. Um, he was just like an amazing guy, and we became good friends, and I got to hear his story, and I just felt like he was so inspiring to me my whole life, and he created all this amazing iconic artwork that everyone sees everywhere, but no one really knows who the person is behind the artwork. Um, so I just kind of felt like I I just wanted to share that because I was really excited about Jim's art and meeting Jim and what an inspiration he was on my life. And I just felt like other people could be inspired by that as well, to become artists or just kind of, tap into whatever their creative outlet is. And yeah, I don't know, it just all kind of aligned that way.
You know that old saying, never meet your heroes and all of that. They'll always disappoint you. I don't feel like that happened, and I've been lucky enough to meet my heroes, and I haven't had that happen, knock on wood. But what I'm getting at is, what was it like to tackle such a personal subject? And I'm just using Jim Phillips as the subject of this documentary. What was it like? Did you see some stuff, or did you find out new stuff where you're filming and you're just like, oh, and I'm trying not to spoil the movie if you notice.
Yeah, no, I mean, like you said, meeting your heroes is always like a tricky thing, because a lot of times you do get disappointed. But with Jim, that definitely wasn't the case. I mean, he was just very down to earth, like just a cool cat, and he was very inspiring, more than I imagined. You know, I kind of didn't really have that expectation, but yeah, I mean, I learned a lot of things about, he just kind of opened up his life and everything. So it was very vulnerable situations and things, that people go through that um, don't always share with everyone, but everyone can relate to, like health issues. He had a big battle with cancer that he overcame. Um, which is an amazing story. To come out of that as a win is a very very amazing blessing. So yeah, yeah, just other situations, where he opened up about just other struggles he had in his life and things that he bounced back from. And I mean, the amazing thing about Jim is like he always had his art as his direction and his focus to kind of get him through everything. So that was like what was so inspiring to me, and what I learned about him is like no matter what tough thing he was thrown at him, he just would, kind of put his head down, focus on his art, and that was like his happy place, and that's what kind of got him through everything.
And that was kind of dope because one of the cool things about this documentary, without getting too far or giving away, Jim usually, and I think you have this knack too. Jim was always at the right place at the right time. Whether it be creating art, finding the guys from Santa Cruz, skateboarding in the 70s, 80s, right when that took off. And he was right place, right time, whether it be in the 90s with the concert posters, whatever. I think, why was it so important to have this, you call it streak of good luck or good fortune in the documentary, where he was just right at the right time, even his college, well, high school and college in the beginning, where it was just right place, right time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, everything just kind of came together, and I think that's kind of, he just has that kind of special buzz about him where things just fall into place. He's not even really trying, it seems like. Um, I mean, he's said it himself, like his life is kind of like, if you've seen the movie Forrest Gump, where he's just like jumping into these crazy situations, like meeting the president, like meeting all these crazy people, and he's just very like innocent about it and doesn't really like have any idea what he's doing really, and anyone else would be like, whoa, that's crazy, like you had all these amazing experiences. So yeah, I mean, you summed it up really well. Like and then another, Jim tells the story, he relates it to like an old Popeye cartoon where Olive Oil's like asleep and she's on this construction site and she's like walking across these like giant metal beams, and there's like she's like about to fall off one and another one comes in and she on that, and it's like Jim relates his life to that, like everything just kind of, falling into place,
Right.
like, so it's, yeah, I don't know, man. I think it takes a special person to kind of get into that zone.
Yeah, one of the things
Yeah.
about this film that really struck a chord with me, especially in the world of Jim, because your use of animation, a lot of his stuff was print or on decks and boards and stuff like that. But the use of animation in this film to kind of, was that used as sort of, we can kind of figure out what was going on in his head at that time, or was that used to kind of like, I mean, we're creatives, but I mean, you see the screaming hand, you see the red dot Santa Cruz sign, we kind of see it right there. We see the finished product, but we don't see the evolution of that. So, how did you use your use of animation throughout this film?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is just trying to, get inside Jim's head and bring his art to life, like the way he would have seen it.
Right.
Um, but also creating the visual and like telling the visual story for the viewer. But yeah, I mean, it was that was a really fun part of creating the movie, was breaking down all his artwork and creating animations from it and directing like what the animation is doing, and creating those little stories. And Jim was, he's only seen his art static, like not moving his whole life. So for him to like when he first saw the movie and all his artwork was on screen moving around, he just was blown away the first time he saw that. So that was pretty cool.
This movie really hits a core about art, life, and consumerism. And you get a chance to see it as Jim goes through each part of that throughout the movie, where they all meet up in a way where you see where obviously the consumerism about licensing, and he's made a living off that, the art itself, and you can see like life, how his son and now grandson is following in his own footsteps. Why was it so important to document that, where you can see this arc of where it's not just him, it's the kids and the grandkids too.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty special that he comes from, he has someone to pass it on to. Like he worked directly with his son in Phillips Studios during the 80s, and that was kind of the peak of the skate industry at that time. That was like the hot moment when all those graphics were coming out and skateboarding was just booming. So for Jimbo to be there with Jim, learning from his dad and all the techniques um and everything, like he's carrying the torch now. And then Jimbo's son, Colby, is also a really good artist as well, um, who he'll eventually pass that torch on to him. So I think it's important as humans, as a society, to kind of pass on those skills to our, sons and daughters and just other people to like to keep that alive and keep it going, and because like Jim's knowledge of art and his old school techniques, he just he has talents that, not a lot of people have. So it's a very special thing to pass on to somebody.
Well, John, it was good chopping it up. We talked about this earlier. The film comes out on the 31st. I want everyone under the sound of our voice, our eyes, who could see us on YouTube, just please check this out. It was such a good documentary, and it really gives you more of an appreciation of somebody who doesn't exactly get the praise that he should or did for a very long time. So, John, you made a banger, and you're welcome back on the podcast whenever you want.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Have a great one.
Yeah, you too.
All right, bye.